Today I'm here with Dr. Leah Leese, also known as the Shameless Psychiatrist, because she is passionate about reducing shame. Dr. Leese is a child psychiatrist in the Hamptons. What's the first piece of advice you would give to moms right now who are feeling like other people are doing it better than they are?
The first advice I would give is that you should not should yourself. Don't should. Shoulds are a very terrible way to guilt yourself into everything. For example, I should be a better parent. I should be a better teacher. I should work out every day. I like to think about what Yoda would say, which is do or do not. There is no try. So either do it and do the best you can, or don't do it because you don't have the time. But don't should yourself. You're doing a great job. And don't forget all the fabulous things you have done for your kids during this time and how much you've risen in so many ways to all these different hats. And don't feel guilty about it. For example, you know, if your kid says to you, Mommy, like you're on the computer, or Mom, you're on the computer all the time, you don't have time for me. It's like the answer is, yeah, but I'm working and I am doing the best I can to keep my job. So we have, you know, a life, and like, this is the best I can do. You know, and that's okay. They're going to understand that. Like, they will get it.
Do you think saying to your kid, I'm doing the best I can, is a satisfying answer, or just one that you should feel comfortable giving?
Whether or not it's satisfying the kid depends on the kid. But I think it's the honest answer, which is like, you can't do it all. We're not superheroes. And you know, you could say that as well. And, you know, you shouldn't feel guilt over the fact that your kid is on an iPad while you're, you know, working, or that you're not supervising every minute of their day and making sure they're getting every homework assignment in, because the reality is this is not going to be the same as real school. Don't even try to compete with that, and just do the best you can. If they miss a little, they miss a little. So it's okay, you know.
And the parents that you're hearing from, how did this online learning go for them?
Most of them said terrible. It was a really brutal experience. And this whole idea that you can learn online similar to what you can learn in school is not true. No matter what anybody might say, there's so much that goes on to the personal interaction with motivation of kids and young adults and teenagers. Like they just don't get the same thing from, you know, completing homework assignments. And most of them don't have the executive functioning skills, which means the ability to plan and execute tasks without direct supervision. So they're struggling. And parents can't really fill in the gaps. They're not teachers.
So one of the things I saw in my house was like a lot of creativity. And so I've heard from some experts that like, let your kid run with those moments. Let them kind of choose their thing that really drives them right now, because the other stuff is just not working. How do you feel about that?
Great. Yeah, I think that you have to reinvent the wheel. Like, for example, this is a great time to take up an art class, because that's something you can do over Zoom, you know, and, you know, or take up a music class, music lessons, or something where it doesn't require, you know, if you're in the city, you can't get on playgrounds, you can't get on sports fields. So what is it like? How do you reinvent, like take up a new hobby, you know, that is very pandemic friendly, and yeah, run with it. Whatever they're interested in, run with. I think that's a great idea, and to be inspiring like that. I agree. It's very smart.
Okay, so far nothing in my house is going as I thought it would, and I'm losing my mind. How do I nourish myself? How do I, and maybe even bigger than that, maybe it really is that I'm depressed, or I need something right now. So if for that continuum of mental health, what do I do as a mom?
Well, I think you have to look at the idea of shame. Like, what is it you're internalizing? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to take on too much? Are you trying to, you know, do you feel guilty? Do you feel shame, and for what reasons? And identify those triggers. And then the second thing you need to do is like access support from wherever you can get it, whether it be your partner or friends. And if you're really that depressed, you know, mental health counseling online, you know, is very important. And also look at your self-care routines. Like, they probably need to be boosted up in terms of like taking up a meditation practice, or exercising every day, or, you know, looking at, you know, diet, those kinds of things. And try to live a guilt-free life, because a lot of this is just like how we've think that we can do everything we can, so we're always feeling guilty. And it's like, it's okay to say to your kids, I can't be there for you right now, I need to go and do exercise. And, that's fine. Like they are going to have to understand that you can't be there 24/7, and they're going to have to learn to stand up on their own 2 feet.
So that sounds so easy when you say it. Can you give some, like maybe 3 tips of what you would say to a mom who you were having a virtual session with about, like, I think you need to do the following 3 things? So you already said meditation and exercise. Anything else?
Yes. If you're completely overwhelmed, I think it might be prudent to look at how your kids are with their independent living skills. Like, it may be that your kids are extremely needy, and if we're talking about teenagers, they probably need to learn how to be more independent, and that can only happen if you stop enabling them. So, for example, if you're cleaning up their room for them all the time, if you're on every Zoom call with them, making sure they do all their homework, like at some point you have to pull back that support and give like incentives for the behavior you're looking for, but not enable the behavior and say to them, like, you're on your own, kid, like I can't do all this for you anymore, like I don't have the time, like, stand up on your own 2 feet, you've got this. And trust that, like, okay, they may fall a little and that's uncomfortable, like their grades might fall, or you might feel that they're not showering like you would like, or their room is disgusting, but that's okay. You can let that go, and slowly over time praise them for the good behavior, reward them for the good behavior that you like, make the good choices easy and the bad choices more difficult, and then eventually you can sculpt the behavior you're looking for, making them more independent so you can have more free time.
That's so much easier to do when we're not 24/7 together, right? Like to not see them doing their homework or not doing their homework, or how they're interacting with their peer group is so much easier when you're not seeing it. And now we're all in the same space where we're noticing everything about each other.
Mm-hmm. And I think as parents, we always want to fix our kids. Like, we don't want them to suffer, right? But I think letting them go through the school of hard knocks and suffering a little bit is a great life lesson. Like, I always say, like, I hope my children get their heart broken for the first time in my home, because then I'll be there to pick up the pieces. Would I want to, like, say, don't get involved in a relationship in high school because it's not going to last, and then it's not going to work out, and you're not going to marry your high school boyfriend or girlfriend anyway, so what's the point? And I'm always thinking to myself, no, I want them to have those experiences in my home with me there, so I can help them pick up the pieces. And I'm not going to rescue them. Like, I'm not going to, like, prevent their pain from happening. I'm going to let them experience the pain and be there to pick it up. So let them, if you see a fight coming, then you can just, let the fight happen, and then be there to give them advice on how to get themselves out of the situation. Unless, of course, it's very dangerous. I'm not saying you should let them, drink and drive or do anything really stupid, but like letting them, make social mistakes and, be there to, understand why it happened and go, that's okay. That's great. That's great parenting. You don't have to fix everything all the time.
So sometimes the relationships during adolescence get a little fraught, and that's even under the best of circumstances. So if it is something, I think what we've talked about so far is more like lack of enough time and not being able to focus on just work or just parenting and all of those practical things. But
Yeah.
what if it's like a dynamic where it's just a bad dynamic?
Well, I mean, teenagers can be really, really irritable, right? They're by nature very irritable because of their hormones a lot of the time, boys and girls. And I think if you are the kind of parent who has very high expectations for your child, it can be very hard to manage that child's behavior because you expect them to treat you with respect and kindness and love, and then they disappoint. So if that's the case, there's only one thing you can do, which is change your expectations. You have to expect that teenagers will be irritable. They will say very nasty things. They get emotional. Are you going to take the bait and think it's personal? In which case you're going to suffer. And the relationship will suffer because you will polarize them, because you will retaliate. Don't speak to me that way. It's unrespectful. And then you'll say, I'm taking away your phone. And then they will get even more angry. And all of a sudden that creates the dynamic. That's when you lock horns. So when you change your expectations, I'm going to expect my child's going to be irritable. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to splash some cold water on my face. You can say something like that. I don't like that. It hurts my feelings, but I'm not going to get upset about it. And I'm going to just let it go. And then the whole dynamic can change because your teenager will have less to butt heads with you about. It's when you keep escalating it. Don't negotiate with terrorists. Teenagers are terrorists.
Having lived through 5 of them, I can attest to that. But is there any language, like, we kind of know the don't talk to me like that, like that's the visceral reaction, or probably something that we heard our parents say to us. Are there other words, like if we could just store them in our brain now for when we need them, they'll come out a little easier?
Yes. I think, I feel, I want. Everything you want from your teenager, everything you want to say, I think, starts with I think, then it goes to I feel, then I want. I think that you have been treating me very, with a very, very harsh tone of voice. I feel very upset when you say those things. I want you to speak to me kindly. I think, I feel, I want. You're always going to get somewhere with that. Take the yous out of your language.
And you said you're always going to get what?
You're always going to get a better reaction. Like you'll get a better reaction from a teenager or anybody for that matter if you stick to I think, I feel, I want. Always
stay away from you.
You, because when you say I think, nobody can, it's your perspective. No one can say that what you think is wrong. So if you say you're wrong or, you can't speak to me like that, then it's already a value statement to the whole interaction. Like, right? Like you're wrong. What you did is bad, right? It's different when you're saying, I think that, that those words are really harsh, right? You can never be faulted for your own perspective, right?
It kind of feels a little bit like splitting hairs when you say, like, you're couching the same sentiment in I instead of you. Do kids really react differently? Like you've witnessed that teenagers react differently with the I rather than the you.
Language is very important. How you couch something is very important. And you don't talk, you can't talk to me like that. You need to show me respect. Is so different from, I think that, I think that you're being, harsh on me. I feel so upset by it, right? And I want you to use kinder language is such a different way of saying the same thing, right? And, of course they could still get upset. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but much more likely not to. And then, think about if your teenager came up to you and talked like that, how good you'd feel about, like, really, I always say you catch more, flies with honey. Like if you want it to your parents, I always say teenagers, you want something from your parents, say it like that, because they're more likely to give you what you want. And it's more important to be effective than right, which means, if you might be right that they're not treating you with respect, and you might be right that you don't deserve it, but it's not an effective strategy to tell them that.
Okay, tell us something hopeful to close this conversation up.
Something hopeful. Well, there's so many hopeful things about this situation because it's absolutely going to end. There's an end to this. Like the vaccine's going to come, or we're going to get herd immunity, and we're going to get through this. And often the toughest memories, like the toughest times, even when you're fighting with your family, are the most salient memories, which means they get encoded into our amygdala, and they create these very rich memories. So you will never forget, you and your kids will never forget this experience. And with the wisdom of time and the perspective, you're going to look back on this, and you're going to look back on it with fondness.
Dr. Leah Leese, thank you so much for being here with us.